time to time to be part of it. Thank you very much for participating today. You don't have to, because you have
Can you all hear me? Thank you again for this opportunity to talk about the history that is St. James African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, the oldest church in Ithaca, as well as the oldest AME Zion church in the world, still operating out of its original foundation. So there are other AME Zion churches that are older than us, but we are the only one that is still operating out of its original foundation. Where can I begin? I feel like once I got here about 4 years ago, I was inundated with so much history and introduction. You have to know the Joneses, and you have to know the Nuns, and you have to know the Welches, some of the pivotal people in our community. But paramountly, after looking at the video, what it really helped me to embolden is the importance of community and how Southside story is the church's story. The church's story is Southside's story, because historically St. James pastors have also been the executive directors of Southside Community Center as well. So we're definitely linked in that way. There's an African proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child. But if you push the envelope just a little bit longer, the question is, did the village get the memo? And because if the village hasn't gotten the memo, then what happens is that the children begin to have disdain for the community and then burn down the village. So in this moment, as I stand before you as a young preacher, as a young pastor of this iconic church, this iconic congregation, the video has instilled in me why it's necessary to do the work now. So that we can come back 20, 30 years from now and see that they're still holding the mantle and the importance of Ithaca beyond. So with that, again, you all are in the Mecca of, as we say, Black Greekdom. No matter if you are a Delta, a Sigma, a Q, this is home, because in the room that we sit in today is the very room that the founders of Alpha Phi Alpha had the conversation to establish the fraternity. So when people come here from all over the walks of the MPHC, I tell them, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground. And that also puts paramountly the importance of Ithaca. We always assume that when we talk about New York, we think of New York City, right? But there is so much rich history and value with upper parts of New York that is so profound. So again, as a pastor of this church and having the opportunity to interim pastor for the family of Harriet Tubman before I got here, I'm truly humbled to see that this exists. And I pray that God takes this to the next level and let people know that Ithaca ain't going nowhere, because it's here to stay. Y'all, thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Next we have Miss Mabel Welch coming up to grace us.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
As usual, I say whatever I have to say with music. And coming here at the age of 10, we were a family of nearly 12. Lived on South Plain Street for a good deal of that time, in a house that is no longer there, but still the spirit of it, and the spirit of home is still Ithaca to me. And I've raised 6 children here. Started worshiping in this church when we came here, and Reverend Bonner used to come around. You hear that bell ring, and then he would come around that corner in his robe, sleeves furling, and come right to our house and say, "Children, come to church." So the indictment upon the generation that was before us is really, I feel that we may have been present, but we were not educated. I feel that lack of education, being surrounded by history and all kinds of opportunity, but no one imparting that knowledge. And here I am at the ripe old age of, well, I'll tell you, 72, and still learning, still hearing, and sometimes it causes me to weep. But I continually recite some names of people that were here in this church and in this community that I still learn great lessons from. So I want to talk to you about Hazel T. Love and Leo Love and Mary Love. And I want to talk to you about Lillian Love. And I want to talk to you about, let's see, Herbert Freeman. I don't even know if people even remember him. The old man Pete and Miss Edna, they used to walk up and down the street. And Miss Ruth, y'all remember them? So me and Lulu would be running from them. Especially Miss Edna, because you know she had that Budweiser bottle in her. And we were like, oh God, she's coming to our house. And it was like, Mom, here she comes. But there are so many, I remember, Art. And of course we know Billy Bibby, who was my mother's husband and Stephanie's father. And she's laughing over there. But all of these people formed who I am, what I was exposed to, lessons I learned what not to do. I learned about hypocrisy, not setting the example, not teaching children. So I tried to teach mine which way to go. And we lived at Southside. I still feel cold chicken grease under my nails and in my hands from doing the chicken dinner to support the center. And, you know, when money got misappropriated a couple times because, you know, we were like trying to plug up the hole over here and trying to plug up the hole over there. And next thing you know, we had a mess. But it was a wonderful thing to get together and put our shoulders to the wheel and get the work done that needed to be done. And the center is still a great place. When I came here, you could go in that little rec room and you could dance. You know, they had record players then with vinyl records and just on the stack. And Ben Dean and Mr. Townsend would be in charge of that. And you better not step out of line. We played ping pong. We had cooking lessons in that kitchen. And then out in what is now like the lobby area, there was a big fireplace. And then we used to have dances out there. And y'all know, if you remember the Christie brothers, Fred and Greg. Remember Teddy and Greg Christie? Y'all remember them? Okay, so there's all kinds of people around. Remember Mike Dickerson, let's call his name, Celeste, Susie, Evelyn. These are all people that are in our community, and now we can only sometimes speak to some of them spiritually because they're not physically present. So not only do we have the responsibility to pass on history, we have to pass on that whole total sense of community to each other. Keep it alive. Keep memories alive. The good with the bad. Keep them alive. But for me, the center of it has been to recognize and work in my area of ministry, and that is to get people to live for the Lord Jesus Christ. And we don't talk about that. They didn't teach us that. They were teaching us the 10 Commandments, but they wasn't living them. And it's time for me to go sit down. Wonderful. And so now we're going to talk about another rich history right down the street, the Southside Community Center, of which just about each and every one of us have 10,000 memories that we can think about that were part of that center when we were growing up, how pivotal it was in our lives. So today we're going to talk about it today with Dr. Nia. Yes. And she's going to let us know what's going on today, and the floor is yours, my dear.
All right. Thank you all so much. Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Nia Nunn, and I took some notes because I know you said 3 to 4 minutes, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell. Such a favorite story that I'm actually working on a book associated with my history in Ithaca and the roots of Southside Community Center. So it's called The Community is My Classroom, a curriculum of radical vulnerability. And I won't sit here and read it all, but I did take a few notes just to provide my story as it relates to teaching the history of this space and what we're doing now. So again, I'm known on this block and here in this community as Dr. Nia. Once upon a time, I was Miss Nia as a school psychologist at Beverly J. Martin. But I teach at Ithaca College, so I have the glorious responsibility of preparing teachers in large part for Ithaca. It's my true joy, and Southside serves as a living laboratory. Creative curriculum where I have young people coming down, connecting with our children, and and making that happen. We also run a performing arts program out of Southside every year. And so that's a 2-minute video that may be a nice special thing to share with folks at some point. And so I was born in 1981. I won't give all of the details, but I will say that my parents were Ithaca College students. Said they wouldn't stay and be townies, but that lo and behold, that's exactly what they did, and raised my brothers and I here, and I'm so grateful for that. My father is actually Fee Nunn, who was opening the video that we just watched and played music as well. So performing arts has always been a hook as it relates to serving, teaching, and nurturing the community. That is the heartbeat of Southside. There's so many folks in this video. Diane Sams, Mama Scott, who's actually, I have a whole chapter highlighting her. So it's always exciting to see that we have these resources that continue to teach. I feel like growing up in the 80s and 90s here in Ithaca, as a 4-year-old, I was at Southside for Girl Scouts. It was a predominantly Black Girl Scout troop. Several of our mothers, the Martha Smiths, my mother Shelley Nunn, Marcia Fort, there were a bunch of us as little Black girls all over Ithaca in predominantly white spaces. So our mothers took the initiative to gather us on a regular basis. It was an experience. I remember I was too young to participate, but my mother insisted, right, and contributed a whole bunch to make it happen. We went camping, we explored, we learned about our skin, our bodies. It was normalizing Black girlhood at a very young age. In fact, we were raised to be leaders. So I told you I was 4, right? And now I serve as the board president, but the executive director is Miss Siobhan Bunch, who you'll see little Girl Scout photos of us. I'm 4, she's 5. And so we represent the leadership legacy that we're teaching and trying to embark upon our young people right now. I feel like we were also the wave of Black educators in Ithaca. I think it was Beverly J. Martin, right? I went to Central Elementary School. I think I heard some people shout out Central. And it was my 5th grade year that the name was changed from Central Elementary to Beverly J. Martin. Beverly J. Martin was gold to us, right? I mean, Royal, as the first Black administrator, her family's history goes back 100 years on this block. She is the science center. She had so many Black people falling in love with not only teaching, but science and loving themselves. And she mentored Black teachers. So I'm the product of all of the Black teachers that she either encouraged to stay in Ithaca, to get off the hill, Ithaca College and Cornell, to come into the community, including my father, Fee Nunn, Denise Lee, Millie Clark Maynard, and those who have passed, Abraham Lee. You know, these are all of our teachers. Todd Peterson, right? These are the folks that encouraged us to be great when we were very little people. And so it's a joy to always be able to speak their names. I left Ithaca for 8 years for undergrad and for grad school, and then came back home, as I mentioned, as a school psychologist at Beverly J. Martin. And then ran programming with my father out of Southside. Right, so COMEP is celebrating its 21st anniversary this summer, but the roots are strong right there. Once upon a time, I was the executive director at Southside, interim, while we were figuring things out, right, and working to maintain our independence. So when you hear Mama Scott talking, that's what she was shouting out to us when we were young, and especially in high school. She said, you have the responsibility to protect this space, and for it to maintain its independence. So those of you who've been around, you may see me dealing with Common Council and not just me on my own, we as a collective, even our children coming to Common Council meetings to argue for the protection and the continued support of Southside Community Center. So it has served its purpose now, we're talking 90 years. But we are still, in many cases, fighting to protect our mission and our identity as Black people in Ithaca. So I'm super excited for the invitation to highlight some of the joys, some of the beauty that exists. in our community. And just to continue this leadership legacy is a part of my purpose and a team of incredible Black educators that I get to serve with. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.